going to start out the interview with, what's your name?
My name is Richard O'Connell.
And what is your job title exactly?
I'm a senior editor-producer at CBS News in the what they call the news marketing department. We make promotions for the network, for the news network.
So why do you think that's important?
Why do I think it's important to create promotions? Well, it gets the message out about the shows that we have in the news divisions. The shows that we have are the evening news with Scott Pelley. We have 60 Minutes. We have Face the Nation and Sunday Morning. We have a new show in the morning called CBS This Morning, which so it's important to get the word out about the new show.
Why exactly did you go into that job industry?
I stumbled into it. There wasn't a plan. Before I was working with CBS, I was working with MSNBC, doing the same thing, doing promotions. But before that, I was working for Sony with an outdoor video display they had in Times Square. And again, I was creating advertising promotions for the board in Times Square. But before that, I was doing other things that had nothing to do with where I am now. They didn't have anything to do with promotions. There was some video involved.
Why do you feel the TV industry is more important than other industries such as like radio, the internet, and other forms of mass media?
I don't feel it's more important. They're all different.
Well, you're saying they're different. What do you think is so special about the TV industry? How about that?
Well, it's not as I tell you, it's not as special as it used to be. There's so many more choices and channels. It used to be when I was a kid, it was very exclusive. There were 3 networks. This is before Fox. There was no cable. Back then it was extremely special. Now with the birth of cable over the last many decades, and now of course with the internet, everybody can have a television studio, or television channel. So it's wonderful in the sense that there's so many options. It's a bit overwhelming. There's a lot more competition. It's all, in television, it's all about eyeballs. It's all about people watching. So now you're dividing up the amount of people watching with, so many other cable channels, so many other options now with the internet. So I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question. But it's an incredibly exciting time to be part of this industry. It's going through so many changes. It's gone through so many changes in the years that I've worked in it.
All right. Well, the last question I'm going to ask you is, if there's one thing in the industry you could change, what would it be? You gave me that question on the paper, and I was trying to think of what would be the proper answer. There's really not a lot of things that I would like to change. There's so many different areas of it. There's one thing that's kind of it's really what they call inside baseball. There's a certain group of people, at least, and I only work in a small area of television. I don't work out in Los Angeles making prime time shows. I work in Manhattan doing working within a news division. I'm not even in the entertainment division. But there's a lot of people who what do they say? I don't know. They're cynical about the business, about being in television, and maybe just because they're cynical people, but they're downers, and they blame television. Well, that's just the way television is, or you can't trust anybody in television. It is very competitive, and there are, as in any business, there's a lot of sneaky people. There's a lot of people who can't be trusted, but there's also a lot of good people. So the one thing I would change is these certain types of people who have this cynicism towards the industry.
it's very inside baseball. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but I'm sure it's prevalent in all different kinds of industries. But I would get those people out of the industry.
So, Richard, what media sources do you consume on a regular basis?
I'll tell you, Julian,
yes.
well, television. Television. And you know, not because I work at a television network, but, you know, I come home, I still like, when I sit down and want to watch something, I still like watching on the you know, the 27-inch, whatever it is, 42-inch now, the widescreen. In fact, the way I got into videotape editing, the first project that I did was, we took 3 cameras, like one was an 8mm, there were a couple of VHSs or something like that, or 2 8mm and 1 VHS, and we put them on tripods. And this is back in 1990 or 81, I think, 89, excuse me. And we, me and my brothers and my cousins, we videotaped the stickball game that we played down in the factory area of the old neighborhood. And I took these 3 tapes and I synced them up, and I cut them together as if it was a broadcast of a baseball game, except it was a stickball game.
Wow. And
put in commercials. Me and my cousin announced it. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. It looks amateurish, which it was, but that was the first thing I ever edited. There was a video, there was a feed, because what you get is you get all these satellite feeds, you get all these feeds that come into the network, and unedited, and there was a feed when Imus got canned for his remarks about the Rutgers women's basketball team. When he got canned, he did one last show at the WFAN studios. I think at the time they were in Astoria. And he did one last show. He was kicked out of the NBC studios, but he stayed on like for another week with FAN. But we had, like, you know, a little cheap camera hookup out to that studio, because their studio was part of the broadcast. They had a couple of people there. And that line was open during the last show, where everybody's crying. Everybody's crying, and there's all this stuff that's not meant to be heard on air, all this conversation and stuff like that. And I thought, God, this is gold. That's what I thought. This is gold. I could, because at the time it was, it was a news item. The other thing you find out being in the news is that a lot of things that you hear in the news really aren't really true. Like, I remember I was working at Sony in Times Square, and the New York Times came over. Now, I like the New York Times. I thought it was pretty reputable. Awesome. And they did, right, you think, but they did a profile on our video board in Times Square, because back when I worked there, we were the only video board in Times Square. Now you go there and there's video all over the place. Everywhere. Mm-hmm. But we were literally the only video board in Times Square. So they did a profile on us back in '93 or something like that. And reading it, it was just, this isn't accurate, Well, like, where'd they get this information? So it started me wondering, like, okay, wait, now I know that if they can get this wrong, what else are they getting wrong? There's a huge competition for news information, for getting the story first, and that could force people to not be very accurate. All that competition. But I think CBS is pretty accurate. I do, because they have a long tradition, and I think they are.
Do you think it's good for the industry to be owned by the bigger companies, for them to always just be at the top, or do you think, like, the smaller companies should get more, like, recognition and stuff?
The small stations?
Yeah, like the smaller like networks, because like mostly it's just like Fox, ABC, CBS.
But not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
But that's where like most of the ratings and stuff.
Well, but over the years, and it's going lower and lower and lower. It's anybody's game. If you're putting out good product, good content.
Well, we appreciate your time, Mr. O'Connell.
You can present me with an Emmy?
Yes, I'm going to present you with that.
Here's your Emmy. Accepting the award. Well, I don't even know. I'm speechless. If you work hard, you can have one too.